Day of submissions. Our apologies for the late start. We had two councillors caught in traffic and therefore didn't have a quorum to proceed. As I mentioned earlier, the Mayor, Julie Hardacre, will be joining us a bit after 9:30. She has a prior appointment and so she will be taking over the chairing as soon as she arrives. So I'd like now to move straight into our first speaker, Don from Hertz. And Don, you've got up to 10 minutes, including questions. So the floor is yours.
Deputy Mayor and councillors, it's certainly a delight to put a face to you in person. Normally we only see you in a newspaper photo. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to say what nature does for us all. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mouth blowing up 3 years ago. I've always believed in fluoridation, especially as a grandparent, and my family's well-being. As for my mouth blowing up, I had blood oozing out of my mouth. Even with my lips closed, blood was still oozing out. My gums just disintegrated due to chemicals. I've since learned that reliance on our health officials' advice is tantamount to mass killing of our cells. There is clear evidence in the level of tooth decay, gum disease and other diseases in our bodies. To me, dentists and toothpaste manufacturers have had long enough, over 60 years, of playing their games with my mouth. Modern Western science in drug and chemical manufacture is doing an awful job, killing our cells at best. What is this that makes chemicals and medicine so good? They simply make money, and that is all, and not health, give us health. We only seem to think of nature when a storm blows or the ground shakes. Does anyone know what 100% pure therapeutic grade essential oils means? Few do. They are the life stream of plants, over 10,000 times more potent than herbs. Man is not able to manufacture such pure substances. This is the uniqueness of 100% pure oils. One drop of oil reaches each and every cell within a few seconds, working exactly the same as our hormones do, intelligent and living, knowing where to go and what to do. Drugs and chemicals are dead as a dodo. They only kill our cells. Yes, kill our cells and tissues. As a fact, there's over 100 trillion cells in our body. And I believe at least 10 trillion cells are killed by our medical people of all descriptions, including alternative medicines. So that's why we become ill. Think for a moment, how did plants survive the trauma of the present drought? As soon as rain has fallen, we have noticed spring growth. Could we humans have survived the same conditions? Of course not. It is our plants that provide us with life, not chemicals as modern man has come to create and accept as the norm. Few New Zealanders know what nature does provide, and more sadly, don't want to know. I brought the products that restored my mouth. Mouthwash, just a few drops in my mouth and rinsed about and swallowing. There is toothpaste here, and this tube of toothpaste lasted my wife and I 11 months. And then if you want to get rid of tooth decay, you put a drop of each of these oils, these, which comes from the bubonic plague, and Melrose, in a little bit of water, and rinse your mouth and go and swallow. I have all my teeth, except about 10 years ago the dentist took out one of my back molars. Otherwise I have all my teeth, and I'm sure I will keep my teeth to the day I die. Because the oils, I have to admit, have dramatically changed the health of my mouth. I've never had my mouth so healthy. Out of 92 elements nature has given us, only 4 are safe for human consumption. That is providing life, and those elements are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen and nitrogen. Whilst we need the other elements are necessary for life, they do not form living matter. Hence, fluorine and silicon in fluoride compound are unsafe. Health authorities approve substances which are unsafe, less than 100% pure. FDA is 80%, and with unsafe elements. In the essential oils world, 93% are flavouring grades used in perfumes, equally as damaging as chemicals and drugs. Of the 7% remainder, only less than 1% are 100% pure, meaning there are no harmful side effects to kill cells, to end in cancers, autoimmune diseases and many more other illnesses. Anyone in their right mind would never, if given the choice, choose man-made substances and surgery, butchering our bodies. Would you? New Zealanders have to wake up to the brainstorming that has sold us all a limp squid. Your choice is simple, is a simple one. Choose nature and receive health. Choose fluoride and make money for the professional health team, who only have a very narrow window of knowledge. Our health board's attitudes need to change. You're now free to ask me any question you like.
Questions, councillors? No, there are no questions. Sorry, Dave?
Don, thanks. Where did you get the idea for those particular oils and mouthwash and so forth? Were they recommended to you by a health professional of another sort? Or?
They come from a company called Young Living, and their corporate office is in Salt Lake City. At the present time, because of the small response in New Zealand, we don't have a warehouse here, but one day when more and more people start using these products, there will be a warehouse, I believe, in Auckland. But we actually import them from the States, but they come from throughout the world.
Who recommended them to you? How did you find out about them is what I was asking.
Actually, I'm not quite the answer.
Sorry, Don. Who recommended them to you? How did you find out about them?
Talking with me, and I'll put you on to source.
No.
Sorry. The question that Councillor McPherson is asking is, how did you know about those products?
Yeah.
Who told you to use them?
I was led actually by my brother-in-law, who in turn was told by somebody else.
It's all word of mouth.
It's word of mouth.
Okay, thank you. Don, there are no other questions, so thank you very much for your presentation.
I brought these if you want to try them, you're welcome.
Thank you. Before I take the next speaker, just a small housekeeping matter. There is a car outside, a silver Capella, registration AWE 644, and the lights are on. So if it belongs to you, I suggest you go and save your battery. If not, it's someone else's problem. So I'd now like to call Donna Tito to give her submission.
I'm sure the Mayor will hear what I have to say through the recording, so I address the Mayor, the councillors and the company we have here today. He mihi aroha kia koutou. I know I don't look like it, but I am Māori. Firstly, I whakapapa to the flowing waters of Wairere. That's the mana whenua of this area, the traditional governing people of this area, through and the late Hare Puke, which many of the councillors will know, and I flow through the same bloodline. And I have the authority, therefore, to speak. Fluoride may not look like it is a dangerous toxic substance, and I don't have the authority of a scientist to say this, but I have the authority to speak as a mother, a Māori mother with children, grandchildren, a family, in myself, mana wahine. Thirdly, I have the authority of water, the wairua, the finest spiritual essence, and this gives me the discernment to know truth from untruth. Māori have a word, tikanga. I use Māori words liberally because we, especially those in government, will know these words, this Māori language that's common to governance. Māori have a word, tikanga, meaning the true way. However, much that is purported to be true is just tradition, the way it has always been done. And fluoride has been added to our water since the 1940s. Is this by truth or by tradition? Now, I've spoken of three authorities so far. They are the authority of government, the authority of the mother in a family, and the authority of water. We're used to thinking about water authorities. You know, we have the Waikato River Authority, and all places throughout the world have their water authorities. And that is the use and the management of water. But I would like to have you shift and think about the authority of the very water. Water is pristine, perfect, and has power in itself, life-giving power. Adding to it does not add to, but diminishes its power. In the traditional Māori worldview, water and its use has physical and spiritual importance. And in this view, water pollution, no matter how minor, offends the spiritual value of the water body. And so waiora, the spiritual, the purest form of water, contains the source of life and well-being. Down in Frankton, Colombo Street, we have Te Puna Ora Trust. It was formed by my whanaunga or relation, and it means, Te Puna Ora means the wellspring of life. Now we have the Waikato River, Te Awa Waikato, and it is a great symbol of our people's spirituality and well-being. We see the water coming from the lakes of Lake Taupo. It's so, we took our family there recently and swam in the river. I couldn't believe the clarity, the pristine clarity of the river, of the water coming from Lake Taupo. But as it traverses through the country, and by the time it gets to here, Hamilton, Waikato, and then it's very, what I say, paru or dirty. It doesn't have the clarity. By the time it exits the Port Waikato, it is really almost, it is totally filthy. And this actually reflects the health and well-being of not only Māori, but all the peoples of this area. when you look about the languages of different people, the Eskimos have several words for ice because they live in it, they know it. Māori also have many words for describing water. And I've talked about waiora, the potential to give life and sustain well-being. Wai Māori is the free-flowing water that is, and that's not seen in our people today. The free-flowing lucidity. Now you see depression and lethargy, and one would say laziness. How much of the whakapapa or etiology of disease flows from the pollution of our water? And how much of that is by choice or by imposition? We see a lot of disease states in our community now. The neurotoxicity of fluoride has been spoken of by people of knowledge. And so a lot of that goes for depression and other behaviours. In our family, we have a son, as many other families have, who has, I would say, neurological problems with attention deficit, and a lot of our children suffer that in the schools. Attention deficit. They're actually a problem in the class. A lot of that is because they're nutritionally hollow, and therefore, just like a hollow drum, they make a lot of noise. As I've spoken with a lot of the Māori leaders, they actually do not comprehend the gravity of this pollution, and they have they're saying that fluoride, is my microphone off? They say that fluoride is not actually a tribal issue, and they've delegated an environmental group to advise on this. So if the Māori leaders from the highest ranks I've spoken with do not understand the impact of fluoride on our mokopuna tamariki, how is the common mother to know and to protect her family? And so therefore the mother who's making a valiant effort to nourish and look after their children are fighting against institutions and powers unseen. And low-income families, where are they going to get fresh water from? So the little children, even in the fetus unborn, before they even occupy the body that has been prepared for them, they've already been discriminated against. And so you have had the discernment of some weighty evidence of truth put in front of you, and I would challenge you to take that truth, and just as medical ethics dictates informed consent, governmental ethics also. So you've been informed, and I would hope that you would take this burden of knowledge now, and that carries the responsibility. There's been a great pioneer leader in America that said, how come your people, when asked how come your people are so peaceful, and he says, I teach them correct principles and they govern themselves. So with this burden of knowledge that you have, I hope and pray that you'll take the responsibility to take this knowledge and make an informed and correct choice, and that you will teach this knowledge and be able to make informed consent on your choice of whether to retain or desist with fluoridating our water, and also provide fresh water source for our citizens, and also to back the education process of our citizens in correct principle so they can govern themselves. I'm talking about the governance that is inherent within our families, the power of family to govern themselves. what Māori call tino rangatiratanga, or self-sovereignty, self-governance. And this takes courageous leadership.
Thank you, Donna,
Thank
for
you.
your presentation. There will be no questions because we've used up the 10 minutes. Our next presenter is Pat McNair, speaking on behalf of Patricia Johnson, and I understand there is a DVD. So, Pat, we're just going to play the DVD. Thank you.
I'm back with Dr. Griffin Cole. He is a biologic dentist practicing here in Austin, Texas. He is also a board-certified naturopathic physician and holds certification in integrative biologic dental medicine. So today I want to talk about maybe the dangers of water fluoridation and some of the dangers of having this additional fluoride in our bodies. Can you speak a little bit to that?
I'd like to make a distinction first between fluoride and water fluoridation because I think it's important. So fluoride is what we know as what's in our toothpaste, and it's usually either sodium fluoride or it might be a different form, but it's a pharmaceutical grade fluoride. Whereas water fluoridation is the process of adding a fluoride additive, which is not sodium fluoride or even close to that, to the water supply and ingesting it systemically. And so it's a huge difference because the thing that we've shown scientifically that works is topical fluoride, which is what's in your toothpaste, or if you were to have a gel or something, can work. Now, I still don't think it's necessary for good dental health, and I feel very strongly about that. However, I won't dispute that it works. It affects the enamel in such a way that makes it more resistant to cavities. But drinking it, you're not doing that. It's bypassing the teeth very quickly. You'd have to hold it in your mouth for like 10 minutes to actually get a topical effect and going straight into your body. And by the way, when you ingest fluoride, your body will excrete about 50% of it, and that's it. So you're going to always maintain half of that. It gets in your bones. It's stored in your kidneys because that's where we filter. It gets in several places in your thyroid gland. So this poses a problem because over a long period of time you accumulate it. So it's long-term exposure. So we don't even know the full effects, but we do know that it has effect on the thyroid gland, as I mentioned, has effects on the kidneys, has effects on your bones. It can cause, it has probably the most obvious effects in your teeth, and not in a beneficial way. It's in a negative way. It's the mottling, it's the white spots, it's the fluorosis on your teeth. That is we used to call it a cosmetic effect, but I think we've gone beyond that now, and we realize it's more of just the physical effect that we see. That means there's been a lot going on systemically to get to this point. So to me, it's a big distinction. So I don't ever go out against fluoride in general, but I'm definitely anti-water fluoridation.
Okay, that sounds like an important distinction. So you mentioned briefly some of the potential issues with water fluoridation. Can you speak a little bit more in detail about some of the potential effects people may experience or some of the health problems that people may experience as a result of water fluoridation?
That's a good question, and it's a hard one to answer in that, again, nothing's going to happen immediately. So it's not ever an acute reaction to it. Long term, what I can tell you is several things. One, we know about the mottling on the teeth already. And by the way, that's more than just a cosmetic effect. The teeth are brittle at that point. They're very porous. And I've spent the last 18 years working on patients, and I've probably done about 5 or 6 very big fluoride cases where the teeth were so destroyed that we had to rebuild the whole mouth. And that's very costly. And I can tell you that the cost of fixing fluorosis, is way more expensive than just adding it to our water supply. So you'll hear arguments often the other way saying it's so cheap, it's like $1 or cents to just treat every citizen with water fluoridation, but they don't ever get into what it actually costs to restore it. The things that we hear the most about are the accumulation in bones. Obviously, advanced cases of, like, say, skeletal fluorosis, that's going to happen in places like India or China where they have high amounts of natural as well, or even in Japan with the whole Minamata thing that happened years ago where it was devastating, crippling effects to not only the people who ingested it, but to their offspring as well. That's very, very high levels. We'll see very few cases of that, I think, in this country. What we will see, though, are thyroid issues. And I'm convinced that a lot of the low thyroid issues are probably, at least in part, caused by heavy fluoride in the body. Because remember, fluoride is the most powerful halogen. It's going to compete with iodine. So we need iodine for an active thyroid that's healthy. If you have any kind of iodine issues in your body, either you're deficient or your body just doesn't utilize it well, fluoride's going to win. So you're going to have all kinds of thyroid issues. Kidney problems. If your kidneys aren't clearing away stuff easily and in a normal manner, fluoride's going to mess that up as well. So if you have kidney problems, maybe that's a contributing factor. People who are diabetics, they tend to have to urinate a lot throughout the night usually. They have to drink a lot of water because they're constantly thirsty. They're getting more fluoride than you and I. And so this is a subgroup, again, that would be very negatively affected by all this fluoride in our water. And just so you know, which I think I mentioned before, they lowered the level last year because of all these things. But I think what they're actually labeling as their main reason for is that it's now in 41% of adolescents now have some form of fluorosis on their teeth. So the mottling on the teeth, the white patches, the brown patches, just the whole brittleness of it, that's in 41% of adolescents now. That number's grown dramatically over the past decade, and I think it's just because it's everywhere. As I mentioned before, it's in pesticides, which are used to treat crops. Oftentimes, it's in our water supply, so it's getting into our food products. Sometimes it's even added to food products. So we're getting way too much of it. So big distinction between topical and systemic.
Interesting. So, just to kind of play the devil's advocate, what would be the potential dangers of removing the fluoride from the water? Do you think we would see an epidemic of cavities forming or any other problems like that would result?
I would guarantee that there would be no change at all. In fact, if anything, we'd probably see some improvement in overall health, but there wouldn't be any change in cavity rates. It's just, again, when you're drinking it systemically, you're not getting a beneficial effect on the teeth. And in fact, there have been studies even published in my own trade publications that showed by reputable toxicologists and authors that it has little to no effect on the teeth beneficially when you take it in water at all. Topically, again, works. Systemically doesn't. So it's not doing its intended function. So if you turn it off and all over the country, you're not going to see any cavities go up. And in fact, oftentimes they'll say that the reason why they do this is for those that are not as privileged, those that maybe can't afford to go to the dentist or maybe can't afford to buy toothpaste. So we're helping them. Well, it's interesting that a lot of those groups are now coming out against fluoridation. LULAC, which is the large Hispanic organization here in the country, they came out against it publicly just this 6 months ago. So that's the largest Hispanic group in the entire country has come out against it. Martin Luther King's daughter and niece have both come out and spoke against this, Alveda and Bernice King. There's several other big authorities who have now come out against this.
So I know that for infants, they say that you definitely don't want to use a fluoride toothpaste with infants, that they can be especially susceptible to fluorosis. Can you speak a little bit to that issue?
Yeah, and actually it even goes beyond that. Our own CDC and the ADA, the American Dental Association, who promotes fluoride and water fluoridation, says that you should not use fluoridated water, tap water, to make formula for infants because they're getting too much fluoride there. So besides not using the toothpaste because the child might swallow it, which is dangerous, now we're even talking about water fluoridation issues. So, that's a huge subgroup that is being affected by this. And most people don't, if you can't afford to go buy spring water or get a reverse osmosis system or some kind of special system on your house where you can maybe try to filter this out, which you can never get it all out. You can get 85, 90% of it out. It's a tiny molecule. Then you have no choice. And that's the issue. That brings up the whole, there's always an ethical issue to this, and that is, does somebody have the right to impose medication on you without your consent? And that's what this is.
Well, this is definitely a very important topic, and we will discuss it more in future videos. Can you tell us your website and any other resources you might refer people to where they could learn more about water fluoridation?
Sure. My website is just my name. It's just griffincole.com, GRIFFINCOLE.com. But probably the best website out there for all this information all the scientific studies, videos, everything, is fluoridealert.org. It's called the Fluoride Action Network. Paul Conant, who actually wrote probably the best book on this I've ever seen, which is out there, runs that site, and it's fluoridealert.org, O-R-G. Keepers of the Well is in California. I'm not sure if it's keepersofthewell.org or .com, but that's a great site too. But I think you'll get all your information from that one.
Thank you so much for your time. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can see our future videos where we'll talk more about water fluoridation in Austin and in other cities, maybe even your city. So I hope that you'll tune in again soon. Leave us a comment. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.
Our next presenter is Margaret Parry, Patient Rights Waikato. So Margaret, please come forward, up to 10 minutes, including questions.
Oh, good morning, everybody. I think perhaps, sorry, I better get my glasses. Fluoridation advocates often say that nature thought of fluoridation first. By this they mean that fluoride occurs at naturally high levels in some water supplies. Lots of toxic substances, however, like arsenic and even some medicines like lithium, can occur at naturally high levels. This doesn't mean they're safe. Further, the level of fluoride added in artificial fluoridation programs is far higher than the level of fluoride that occurs in the vast majority of unpolluted fresh surface waters. Also, the main chemical fluorosilicic acid that is added to water is not what most people would call a naturally occurring compound. It is a corrosive acid captured in the air pollution control devices of the phosphate fertilizer industry. 14 fluoride is captured in air pollution control devices because fluoride gases are hazardous air pollutants that cause significant environmental harm. This captured fluoride acid is the most contaminated chemical added to public water supplies and may impose additional risks to those presented by natural fluorides. These risks include a possible cancer hazard from the acid's elevated arsenic content and a possible neurotoxic hazard from the acid's ability under some conditions to increase the erosion of lead from old pipes. Infants who consume formula... No, I just wanted to read this at the back here. 440,000 people are on antidepressants in New Zealand, about. And if it is Prozac, it is between 60 and 80% fluoride, and they wash that down with fluoride water. There will be up to their eyeballs in it. There's so much fluoride. That's most 60 to 80% fluoride in the Prozac they take. So I think it is very bad for these people who are trying to get have better mental health. Yes, and says infants who consume formula made of fluoridated tap water consume up to 700 to 1,200 micrograms of fluoride, or about 100 times more than the recommended amount. According to the DCD, these early spikes of fluoride exposure during infancy provide no known advantage to teeth. These spikes can, however, produce harm. Recent studies show that babies who are given fluoridated water in their formula develop significantly higher rates of dental fluorosis. Because of this, a number of prominent dental researchers now advise that parents should not add fluoridated water to baby formula. And often people can't afford to buy fresh water, as just mentioned on the other two, on this DVD and that. A lot of people are poor and can't afford to buy water, they have to use the tap water, and the babies, and it doesn't help them at all. Very bad for the baby. I have got a new granddaughter who's only 2 months old, and my daughter is starting to give her formula, and I'm not very happy about her using the water, tap water, to mix with, when she's not giving her breast milk. So I'm quite worried about that. Recent studies show that babies who are given fluoridated water in their formula develop significantly higher rates of dental fluorosis. Because of this, a number of prominent dental researchers now advise that parents should not add fluoridated water to baby formula. I don't know whether I've said that before. Sorry if I have. And teeth are not the only concern. In July of 2012, scientists from Harvard University warned that the developing brain may be another target for fluoride toxicity. The Harvard team based their warnings on a large number of studies from China that have found reduced IQ scores among children exposed to elevated fluoride during the early years of life, so their IQ scores go down. 12 of the studies the Harvard team reviewed found IQ loss at fluoride levels deemed safe in the US. Team reviewed found IQ loss at fluoride levels deemed safe in the US, and a study sponsored by UNICEF found IQ loss in iodine-deficient children at the so-called optimal fluoridation level. The possibility that fluoridated water can reduce IQ is a matter that definitely deserves concern. Up until the 1990s, health authorities advised parents to give fluoride to newborn babies. This is no longer the case. Excuse me. Today, the Institute of Medicine recommends that babies consume a minuscule 10 micrograms of fluoride per day. This is roughly equivalent of what babies ingest from breast milk, which contains virtually no fluoride. Fluoride chemicals are the only chemicals added to public water for the purpose of medication. Most Western countries, including the vast majority of Europe, do not fluoridate their water. And lots of states in America have just got rid of fluoride from the water as well. It's happening all the time now. Not sure what else to talk about. But I think fluoride is very bad, and I always buy a filter for my. Every year I have to buy a filter to get the fluoride out of the water, and I have to buy the more expensive one. It takes most of the fluoride out. That's about all I can do. And so I'm really in favour of anti-fluoridation of the water. Even though a lot of people, younger people, don't seem to listen if I try to tell some of my children. They don't think it's very important. Must be the different age group. They don't think it's important, but I think these things are very important. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll just remind people that there's a mute button on here.
Is there?
Yeah, it's about halfway. It's just up there, so I'll just bring that down.
That was on mute.
No, it's just sometimes you lean on it.
Oh, I see.
You carry on.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm not sure what else to talk about, except this is all I've got written down.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to see if there are any questions from councillors. Councillors, questions? No, there are no questions, so thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Pat McNair, speaking on behalf of Janine Unwin.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Pat McNair, and I'm speaking on behalf of Janine Unwin, who is unable to be here today. The topics I'm going to cover briefly today are the history of fluoridation in Hamilton, what is hydrofluorosilicic acid, the Hamilton City Council water treatment plant, Orica ChemNet Morrinsville, Balance Agri-Nutrients Morrinsville, toxic disposal facilities, and the Hamilton Press articles. Now, water fluoridation was started in Hamilton in 1966 using powdered sodium fluoride. In 1985, it was changed to liquid hydrofluorosilicic acid as it was a cheaper option. Now, this is a current photo of the storage tanks at the Hamilton City Council water treatment plant containing hydrofluorosilicic acid. Hydrofluorosilicic acid, in short HFA, which I'll use for the rest of this presentation, in liquid form is purchased by Hamilton City Council from Orica ChemNet in Morrinsville at a cost of $22,000 per year, which includes transportation costs. Hamilton City Council uses 70 tonnes per year and orders it every 5 to 6 weeks, depending on water usage. It's delivered by specially lined Orica tankers directly to the water treatment plant, where it is placed in unbreakable plastic drums which cannot corrode. Now, HFA is classified as dangerous goods for transportation by road, rail, marine and air. It is classified as HAZChem code 2X. It's also classified a Class 8 corrosive with these warnings: avoid contaminating waterways, and repeated or prolonged exposure may result in bone changes, fluorosis. In the Orica Personal Protection Guide number 1, 1998, it says, wear overalls, chemical goggles, face shield, elbow-length impervious gloves, splash apron and rubber boots. If risk of inhalation exists, wear suitable mist respirator. The Orica Emergency Procedures Guide 2010 says, if contamination of sewers, drains and waterways has occurred, advise local emergency services. Now, the Hamilton City Council water treatment plant has the highest A rating for water treatment. They receive daily analysis reports for the treated water, which includes fluoride levels, but they do no analysis of fluoride themselves at the plant. The total cost of fluoridation for Hamilton is $48,500, being HFA $22,000, labour $2,000, maintenance and consumables $12,000, monitoring and calibration $12,000, and safety training $500. Reassuringly, even the water operations manager considers that fluoridation is not a water treatment. Therefore, Hamilton's water quality rating would not suffer if fluoridation was ceased. Now, since 1966, Hamilton City Council has had a policy on the fluoridation of Hamilton's water supply with this stated objective: to protect against dental caries by fluoridating Hamilton's water supply. It was last reviewed in 2008. Approximately only 1% of the treated water is consumed, while the rest is used for showers, washing clothes, watering the garden, flushing toilets, washing the car, etc. So it only costs $485 a year to fluoridate the water that Hamiltonians drink, out of a total cost of $48,500 to fluoridate the entire water supply. The rest goes down the drain and into the river. Not a very cost-efficient method in my mind. Now, Balance Agri-Nutrients, just down the road from Orica in Morrinsville, produces HFA during their superphosphate manufacturing process and they wholesale it exclusively in New Zealand to Orica Chemnet next door, which is a specialist chemical supplier. They also export HFA to Australia for water treatment purposes. They claim they do not have to dispose of any unused HFA produced by their company. Now, although not defined as such in New Zealand legislation when added to water supplies, HFA is indisputably an industrial waste product. Balance has confirmed with me that they treat the ore by adding concentrated sulfuric acid, which converts the phosphate into a more soluble form, superphosphate. As part of this process, the sulfuric acid converts the fluoride in the ore into hydrofluoric acid, which is a gas. These gases are very toxic, so are scrubbed from the emissions into an aqueous solution in the form of an acid. This material, HFA, is highly toxic and is considered a hazardous waste. Orica Chemnet is on Kiwitahi Road in Morrinsville. They also have a branch at Tauranga. They purchase the HFA wholesale from Balance Agri-Nutrients right next door. They process it by diluting it with water, and they filter it to remove the suspended solid silica particles only. They do no further refining for heavy metal contaminants before on-selling it to councils for water fluoridation, and I have this in writing from them. In their own words, nothing else is added or removed. Orica supplies Hamilton City Council with Orica's own certificate of compliance with each tanker delivery of HFA, and Orica reports that the chemical analysis reports of HFA are completed by an independent lab. Now, it appears that the only toxic disposal company around is Trans-Pacific Industries Group in East Tamaki, Auckland. They advertise, using the most up-to-date processing technologies, we treat the chemical and physical properties of liquid and hazardous wastes so they can either be reused, safely released to landfill, or disposed of as wastewater. But they would not reply to my inquiries regarding their safe disposal facilities and costs of disposing HFA. Now, on a different note, I would now like to show you some newspaper articles, all published this year in the Hamilton Press, with the headlines: Preschoolers, bad teeth worrying. Fairfield sees 10,000 kids a year, and child tooth decay is preventable. I'd like to read some quotes from these articles. A growing problem with children's oral health, says Rob Aitken, Waikato District Health Board Principal Dental Officer. 1,000 Waikato children yearly treated under general anaesthetic, says community dentist Jennifer Norris. For many of these children, their teeth are so rotted that they are beyond saving, and the only treatment option for dentists is to surgically take them out. Now, I am puzzled. If Hamilton has been fluoridated for 47 years and fluoridation is safe and effective, how can this be if fluoridation works? This is a complete contradiction. Perhaps water fluoridation is not as effective as the Waikato District Health Board makes out. Are they blind? Do they think we are stupid? Or are they protecting their fluoridation policy at all costs rather than protecting our health? In conclusion, I would like to congratulate the Council for having the courage to organise a tribunal to look at the evidence, and I encourage councillors on decision day to vote for option 2, which is stop adding fluoride in the dosage outlined in council policy to the Hamilton water supply. So, a brief summary. I strongly urge all councillors to vote for option 2 and make it unanimous. I advise the council to cancel their contract with Orica Chemnet now. By my calculations, there are approximately 7 days' worth of fluoride in the water treatment tanks. I have been advised that the water treatment staff only need 5 minutes' notice to discontinue fluoridation. It only takes the press of a button, and there'll be no staff losses at the water treatment plant. It will be a very easy transition. Just remember, water is for everyone, but fluoride is not. So I ask the councillors to please make an informed and correct choice when voting tomorrow.
Thank you, Pat. We have one question from Councillor Forsyth, and if we have the time, Councillor Henneberry.
Thanks, Pat. Just going back to the disposal of HFA, so you weren't able to find out how it would be disposed of?
I did find out from the Trans-Pacific Industries Company that they do have the facilities to do it. It even says it on their website.
Okay.
But they wouldn't reply to my specific questions. They asked me how much fluoride I had to dispose of, and then they would answer the questions. I said, well, you know, I didn't actually have any. So they refused to go any further. But perhaps you could ask yourself.
Thank you, Pat. Sorry, I haven't got time, Councillor Henneberry. Thank you for that presentation, Pat. We are now, according to my computer screen, moving into the morning break. So we're going to break now between 10 and 10:20. Thank you.